and welcome to the Parkland Report. My name is Stephanie Stewart, your host and the Vice President for Communications and External Affairs here at Parkland College. The Parkland Report is the show where we talk to the people making things happen at Parkland College and learn about all of the different offerings and programs here at our institution. Today I'm joined by two guests, Dr. Nancy Sutton, who's the Vice President for Academic Services, and Dr. Joseph Walwik, who is the Dean of Arts and Sciences. This is our very first show back in the studio post-pandemic, and so we hope you're doing well. We're happy you're tuning in, and we're pleased to bring you more content here from the Parkland Report. So Dr. Sutton, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here, Stephanie.
We were just reminiscing a little bit about you being on this show in your former role,
Yes.
but you have a new gig here at the college. Can you share about that?
I do. My former roles were as a Department Chair for Fine and Applied Arts, then on to Dean of Arts and Sciences. Then a little over probably a year and a half ago, I became an Associate Vice President for Academic Services, and in January, I became the Vice President for Academic Services. So I just sort of climbed the ladder.
Excellent. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So your new role, there's been nothing happening.
Not at all.
It's
No.
been boring, I'm sure.
Pretty standard stuff, nothing special. Totally prepared for this, yes.
So give us a little bit of a synopsis from your vantage point, your role in the institution.
Okay.
What has last year been like in that role?
Well, when I stepped into the role, normally what the Vice President for Academic Services does is obviously work with the faculty to coordinate the curriculum to make sure that we're providing the academic services to the students that they're searching for. So it all started out just pretty much business as usual until, as everyone knows, March of 2020, when we ended up having to go totally remote. And so the immediate need was helping faculty see how to put their curriculum totally online. We already had a lot of faculty who taught online. And we had many who excelled at it. But we had a lot of areas, particularly the hands-on career areas, that were not prepared to do it. So the past year and a half has been spent helping faculty seek those resources and the services that they need so that they can continue to serve the students. And along the way, we've learned a lot. In fact, so much so that I think being able to provide more technological services and more online learning in different ways is something that we'll be able to continue to do.
Yeah, the lessons learned, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
In every industry, right, there are lessons learned, but there's a lot here at Parkland I know that
Yes.
we've learned and our leadership team has been working through.
Yes.
One of the things that's really been impressive to me is looking at the larger array of formats for classes. I know you've worked to kind of develop that and communicate that to the campus, both to students and faculty. So can you talk about what some of those formats are?
Sure. In the past, the standard formats we had were obviously the fully on-campus class, which is completely face-to-face. We had what was called a hybrid, which was where you came to campus for a certain amount of time, but you did a certain amount of online work, usually independent, not at a specific scheduled time. And then we had online classes, and that was totally online work. You had to self-manage. You would work with the faculty through office hours, discussion posts, but it wasn't scheduled. And with the pandemic, we realized that what we really needed to do for a lot of students was provide synchronous or scheduled online teaching. So now we have a new format in which a lot of times it will be an online class, but it meets at a specific time, specific days, and everyone's able to see each other. It's almost face-to-face online, so we have that added. Plus we've added what we call a flexible mode. And this is actually really exciting for me because 3 years before the pandemic, we talked about wanting to do this, realizing that there are students who will be in a face-to-face class, but something happens in their life, whether it's childcare issues, work issues, or any number of things that make them have to step out for a week, 2 weeks or more where they can't come to campus, but they want to stay engaged. Well, in the past, if you were in a fully on-campus class, you couldn't do that. Mm-hmm. But now we have a method where the students can actually attend synchronously at the same time, so that while some of the students are in the classroom, other students may be attending through Microsoft Teams or right now Zoom, and they're able to participate and stay engaged. And we think this actually will help a lot of students continue their education and not have to stop out or withdraw. So it's something that we wanted to try. The pandemic actually forced us into trying it, and now we have a lot of faculty who are really excited about what all it can do and the depth and energy that it can actually add to the classroom keeping students engaged. So we're increasing the amount of technology that we have on campus and slowly trying to, as some of the faculty refer to it, trick out the classrooms so that they have the audio and the video feeds that are needed and that we can do this.
Yeah, that's really exciting. We talk a lot about barriers for students. More and more students are going part-time. They're working full-time. They're raising children, as you mentioned. And so, yeah, it's really exciting to see ways that students can continue to stay with us. Because we want you to finish when you come to Parkland.
Right. And this gives students an opportunity. There are a lot of students who they want the face-to-face. They learn better that way. They enjoy it. They want the environment that the college campus provides to them. And that helps them grow and nurture them in the education. And this way they can sign up for that knowing that if something does happen, they can still stay connected and we can make this work. And as more of our faculty try it, like I said, they're finding it quite fascinating. And in a lot of our areas, the pandemic helped our faculty learn that they could do more using, whether it was videos, creating modules, educational videos, things that they could do for the students online, that then when they were able to come to campus, they were more fully prepared for what they were doing. So it opened up a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, you've talked a lot about faculty innovation and given some examples, videos and other formats, but can you maybe share some stories of some interesting things faculty have done during this time period to help meet the needs of their students? They've gone to great lengths.
They have. A couple that come to mind right away was in health professions. Typically we have classrooms that have the clinical setting. They simulate the hospital room. And when we all had to go off campus, obviously the faculty couldn't use that. We had one of our health professions faculty that actually used a room of her house and she set it up as a simulated patient room, and she continued to do videos for her students in her own simulated patient room, mannequin and all. And just the lengths that she went to continue to try to give that very visual presentation to the students of what it would look like. And in our automotive areas, our faculty very quickly went to the GoPros and started getting under the hood of cars with the camera, as they could video record themselves working on the engine and share those. Those are things that actually we found were so useful, not just to the students in a remote setting, but for students in a day-to-day class to be able to go back and review. So a lot of what's come out of this is faculty realizing that the recording of a particular exercise, an activity, or even a lecture is something that students can go back and use for review purposes.
Yeah, thinking about quality too, of our programs, there really is some incredible quality, sort of online, hybrid, flexible. I think we're thinking differently about that now than we maybe did before the pandemic.
Right. And it really is about what works for the students, making sure that it's as flexible as possible, and realizing that the majority of our students have, they have lives outside of the classroom, and whatever we can do to help them continue and work through that that's what we want to do.
Yeah. So talk about instruction. Students are back on campus. Yep. Faculty are back on campus if they're, depending on what their teaching load is and what their schedule is. But talk about what does instruction look like right now on campus with students here? So
right now we're back to what I would call sort of normal. Students and faculty are wearing masks in the classroom. We are staying masked. We do not have social distancing requirements. Those were lifted. Most of our classrooms hold about 20 to 24 students. The distance in most of them is sufficient, that people are comfortable with that. I heard from faculty that the first couple days it was great to have the students back. Students were enthusiastic, but there was a little sort of that dazed sense of, what do I do now? It's been such a long time since I've been in the classroom. But to the best of my knowledge and from what I've seen, activity in the classroom is as it was before. The students are showing up. There's a lot of engagement going on. We have students going on field trips again in terms of in the career and technical education area. They do that quite a bit. We're engaging with the employers, with our business partners again. Mm-hmm. Our ensembles, as I believe Dean Walwik will talk to you more about, we have all of those things are happening again. Things are back on track. We have a few places where we've had to find maybe a little larger space because of what they do in a class, that they still want to spread out a little bit, and we're accommodating that as best we can. And then in classes where if something happens, where maybe there's an exposure, a COVID exposure, the faculty are fully prepared to quickly flip the class online if they need to for a few sessions till everybody's comfortable. So there's a great deal of effort to make sure that everybody remains engaged, but at the same time feels very safe and comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. So, worst case scenario, something bad happens in the future, perhaps the next pandemic or perhaps progression in this one. How prepared do you feel like our faculty are now to handle those changes?
I think we're very prepared. It's an interesting thing as we schedule for each semester. I see the deans and the department chairs and the faculty already thinking about this and how we schedule classes and how quickly could I make the switch if I had to. The largest problem comes in a lot of our hands-on classes, clinicals, where in health professions, but we've got so many good tested ways of getting around it that I think we're much more fully prepared, more prepared than we ever thought we would be. And also we've benefited, as most institutions have, from federal dollars to help us get through this. And like many community colleges in the state of Illinois, we're putting a lot of that toward the technology so that we're prepared in the future with classrooms that can easily go remote if they need to. Even if it was a faculty member who was teaching in the classroom and all the students were out there, in the ether, the class would go on. So I think we'll be much more prepared.
Well, Dr. Sutton, thank you very much for being on the show today. We will go ahead and take a break, and next up will be Dr. Joseph Walwik, Dean of Arts and Sciences.
My name is Mariah Benner-Coogan. I've been at Parkland for about 15 years, and my position is Advising Services Program Manager. Main courses in the program were Microsoft related, but also gave you those customer service, soft touch skills to use like out in an office setting or in a company, working any kind of customer service.
In the job that I have now, I'm required to organize and maintain large amounts of student information, loan information, stuff that we report, and I do all of that primarily in Excel. And the courses that I took through Business Administrative Technology, specifically that Excel course, really made it so that I'm able to be a lot more efficient.
I like the whole aspect of knowing the ins and outs of these programs, and like even if I don't need to use them, I like having that knowledge.
You really get to know your instructors. They guide you on what classes they recommend you taking at certain times each semester. The faculty are definitely key in helping guide students and mentor them.
The faculty members in the classes that I took under the Business Administrative Technology program were all fantastic. They all genuinely seemed to care about my success going through the classes. If I was struggling, they all seemed very apt to help or to give guidance. So I would rank them very highly in terms of faculty.
They make me feel like my questions aren't problems, like they really enjoy answering them, and I feel like a part of this community where once I do have my certifications, I can help others find whatever path they want to take.
Parkland has several partnerships where students can take their Parkland degree, even if it's a career program like an AAS, and transfer to different colleges within Illinois and maybe even outside of the state. But they offer several different 2+2 programs that will take those AAS classes and use them towards a bachelor's degree. So that's what I decided to do. I did my bachelor's in organizational leadership through Greenville. At the time it was Greenville College, now it's Greenville University. And then I got my master's degree in technology with a focus on training and development through Eastern Illinois University.
I worked towards obtaining a bachelor's in organizational and professional development through Eastern Illinois University. And then after that, I've moved on to working on a master's degree in student affairs and higher education.
Welcome back to the Parkland Report. We were talking with Dr. Nancy Sutton before the break, and now we are joined by Dr. Joseph Walwik, our Dean of Arts and Sciences.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
So I believe since you've been on the Parkland Report last, I think you've been a guest previously, but you have a new role as well as Dr. Sutton because there's some transition that's happened in the interim time period. So Tell us about your role and maybe your journey to become the dean.
Well, the journey was I came here as a history professor in 2009 and worked in that capacity for a number of years, then became department chair of social sciences. And then last March 2020 was named Dean of Arts and Sciences, just in time for the pandemic.
Lucky you.
Lucky me, yes. And I've been in that role ever since.
Great. So for our viewers who may not know our organizational chart, so can you talk a little bit about all of the different aspects that are included within Arts and Sciences? Because it's a pretty diverse portfolio of different venues and also academic disciplines.
It is a very large area of the college. So we have 5 distinct departments now under Arts and Sciences. Social Sciences Department, Fine and Applied Arts, Natural Sciences, Humanities, and Math. And within those departments, we teach the vast majority of our transfer type of courses, our general education courses. But also, along with those, we have other things, including venues. So we have venues like our theater, the Geertz Art Gallery, PCTV that we're appearing on right now.
Meta.
Our WPCD radio station, and the planetarium. And so these are things that are also the most public parts of Parkland College, and a lot of people find their first experience with Parkland has been as a student coming to the planetarium or coming to a show at the theater or going to see one of our ensembles, our music ensembles perform. And so those are all part of the arts and sciences world.
Mm-hmm. So maybe let's talk a little bit about the venues since you mentioned it. And I know that many of those sort of community opportunities to engage with the college really lie dormant for a while, but they're coming back. And so can you share a little bit about what is returning and what
Sure.
members of the community can come do now that they're reopening?
Well, I think first it's a bit of a misstatement to say they were dormant, because they did continue on through the pandemic. The activities of the theater and of the art gallery and the planetarium, we did continue to offer programming just of a different kind during the pandemic. But now that we're able to reopen fully, it's just such a pleasure to see this happening. Just last week, our art gallery had its opening for the faculty exhibition. And if anybody has a chance to see the work of our faculty artists that is on the exhibit in the Geertz Gallery now, it is really stunning, and I would encourage anybody to do that. We also have our theater, which is reopening to audiences again. We have 2 shows coming up in the fall. The first is called Playing God, and that opens on September 30th, and that's a kind of a thriller, a student workshop production. And then later in the semester, we have a play, She Kills Monsters, which is a drama, comedy, loosely based or at least inspired by the Dungeons and Dragons games.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, I'm really
I think a lot of people got into that over the pandemic.
Yeah, I think so too. And then we're really excited about the spring, because in the spring we have SpongeBob the Musical coming. And so we're looking forward to that. And those are going to be open to audiences again. And that's just such a wonderful thing to be able to do. And then the planetarium, which did moved all of its programming into a virtual realm. And continued to do its shows. But now we can do our full dome shows. So our Prairie Sky shows. There's a show on did the asteroids really kill the dinosaurs? We have some really great stuff that's being produced in these venues now. And it's just so wonderful to have them open again and have the public be able to have access to just the great work that some of our faculty and students are doing here at Parkland.
Yeah, I know that. I'm personally looking forward to bringing my kids to SpongeBob. But we hear from so many community members that the planetarium, for example, is maybe their first interaction ever with Parkland as a child, school children coming through. But then, being able to come and see a show and take that in and sort of get back to some of those cultural elements that we're able to offer to the general community. It's exciting.
It really is. We're just so happy that we're back on the line, as it were.
Great. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about sort of the transfer element of our courses really in arts and sciences, all of the different disciplines, and the importance of that for the college's mission. So can you talk about what a lot of students what their goals are, right? They're coming through and they might be looking to transfer, but then you also serve students who are also in the career and technical areas as well.
Sure. So in arts and sciences, most of our students are on the track to either achieve the AA degree or to take the AA and then move on to a bachelor's degree. Or they might step out before the AA is done and take the general education certificate. But these are the transfer courses. So all of these courses are articulated with the universities and colleges in Illinois, so they transfer seamlessly. So an English class here, or a history class, or a biology class taken here, all of those things will transfer without a problem to our partner institutions across the state and really almost anywhere in the nation. And so that's what most of our students are, most of the students in the arts and sciences classes are kind of fulfilling those general education requirements. So taking their classes in the fine arts or in the humanities or in the sciences or math, and getting those done while they're also discovering, and this is the great thing about college, when you go to a class that somebody's maybe telling you have to take to fulfill a requirement, and you discover it's the best thing ever. And so we have lots of students who discover what their majors are going to be because they went to an anatomy and physiology class, or an astronomy class, or a math class, or whatever it might be. Students that didn't know what anthropology was are suddenly going to become anthropology majors when they transfer. And that's a really exciting thing. We also do have students who are on more of a career track, so they're looking to get a certain kind of certificate that will enable them to get placed in a job as quickly as possible. And so we do see some of those certificates in areas. We have a criminal justice program, for example, that is more designed towards leading students not towards getting the bachelor's degree necessarily, but leaving Parkland and entering law enforcement.
So one of the things I think you and I were talking a little bit about was the importance of developing critical thinkers for this era in which we live, right? You see all sorts of sort of social conversations unfolding. We're tackling lots of complex challenges as a nation, but then also as a local community and as a campus. So can you talk a little bit about maybe some of the conversations that are happening in your area, maybe it's amongst faculty sort of helping to support our students work through these issues in real time that we're experiencing? Like, how is that translating to the classroom?
Both directly and indirectly. So in some classrooms, we would certainly be engaging with contemporary issues. So we think about a social work class, for example. And no doubt, they're engaging with very contemporary things that are happening right outside the door. But a lot of our work is indirect in terms of helping students to engage in problem solving. And that's really what we do. So no matter what class you take here, and you're going to be given the information that you're not familiar with. You're going to have to learn how to understand it. You have to analyze it, and you're going to have to be able to communicate that to somebody. And along the way, you're given problems to understand, problems to solve. And that skill is the thing that we really want students to take away, because as they become citizens of our community, they're faced with information that they weren't familiar with. And they need to be able to figure it out and figure out what's valid and what's not, and come to their own conclusions on it. And so as we go through this process of teaching all these different subjects, what we're really teaching is understanding, communication, problem solving, and these are the skills that are applicable in any job, but also applicable to being just a good informed citizen. And so while at some points we're talking about contemporary issues, what's happening in the world right now, even if you're in pick something that seems far away from real world stuff, like an organic chemistry class, right? You're still engaging in that problem solving exercise that helps you to learn how different people think about things, how different people attack problems. And that's a really, really valuable skill. One of the things that I like to say about this that we teach, because students often don't want to take courses they think they're not interested in, but they need to fulfill their degree requirements. And what I say about those courses is the courses that are in your major, whatever you think you're going to be working in, those things will help you to get your first job. Every other class that you take here will get you promoted later.
Yes, exactly. We hear that. So in my role at the college, we work a lot with employers, and we hear what their needs are, and they they're looking for skill sets, but I think there is this misperception sometimes that education is transactional, when really it's about this development of the whole person, to be able to step into those roles. And so more and more we're hearing not just about specific skills, even in shorter term programs, but this higher level thinking, problem solving skills to solve problems that don't even exist yet in jobs that don't even exist yet.
If we can teach people a variety of ways to solve problems, and then to be able to communicate what they've learned to somebody else, we've done our job.
Absolutely. So from your vantage point, I mean, we've talked a little bit about, pandemic impact, all of that, but how do you think that, teaching and learning at Parkland in your area of responsibility, how do you think it's changed over this time period, and how do you envision that it will make a lasting impact? So everything we've gone through, how do you think that will impact the future for our faculty?
I think in some really interesting ways, because nobody wants to go and relive since March 2020, right? It's been a tough time.
Yeah.
But in another way, it's kind of been our best time, because we had to adapt and we had to move quickly, and we had to do things that we weren't comfortable doing. In some ways, we had to do for ourselves some of the things we ask our students to do all the time. And a lot of that has to do with the technology of teaching, but also the pedagogy, right? The ways in which we teach. And so we had to adapt the ways in which we teach to suit the circumstances, rather than just rely on what we had done for years or the way that we had been taught. And that has made us much more nimble and much more ready to change with whatever comes next. And we've learned valuable lessons about technology and teaching, especially about the value of interactivity, which some people had embraced more than others before the pandemic, but everybody now understands that an online class isn't just a class in a box. It is a class with a professor who is interacting with their students in real time often, or even if not in real time, on a basis that is so constant that it might feel like real time to students. I worry sometimes our students think we're bothering them too much, because the faculty we really did learn how to change what we do to meet the circumstances. So whatever comes next, I think we're ready to adapt to it. Nobody's signing up for anything too soon. We're just figuring all this out, but we're ready to go, and that's been a really exciting thing. And I can't say often enough or loud enough what a fabulous job our faculty have done in continuing to provide the high level of education they do for our students, even when their world was thrown into a blender as well. Not just our students, and the faculty just came through with flying colors on this. It was I'm just proud to be associated with them.
Yeah, it's been just incredible to watch it all unfold and just hear the success stories of what they've been able to do with constraints, but then sometimes creativity comes from constraint.
Yeah. Opportunities arose, and people grab them with both hands. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Walwik, thank you so much for coming and being on the show today. I appreciate your time and your insights and the conversation.
Thank you.
And that's it for this episode of the Parkland Report. We appreciate you tuning in, watching, and we look forward to bringing you more episodes from here inside of the Parkland Report studio. And with that, we'll send you off. Thank you.